All right, so we are going to look at which is solving equations with absolute value. So we're going to be dealing with absolute value here. So you should be writing at the top of your notes, you should be writing 2.5 solving equations with absolute value. So our goal today is to evaluate absolute value expressions that also solve absolute value equations. Okay. And hopefully a lot of you guys have seen what an absolute value is, if you remember correctly, okay, if you can think about it, right? An absolute value symbol looks just like this right here. Oh, let's see if the ink will work. Ink's not working right now. That's not good. Ink's still not working. Oh boy. Okay, so if we take a look here, I can write here. I'll make an adjustment right here. Okay, an absolute value equation looks just like this right here. Let me just grab a different pen here. I can do this right here. Right here is an absolute value equation, or an absolute value symbol. An absolute value symbol looks kind of like two parallel lines next to each other. And if you remember, absolute value means the distance from zero. So if you think about it, absolute value is always positive. So if we take the absolute value of 5, the answer is 5. The absolute value of -5 is also 5. Okay. So absolute value always has to be positive. So knowing that, let's take a look at this. If I was told to evaluate an expression with absolute value, what I need to do is I'm going to take this expression, the absolute value of a minus 7 plus 5, if a is 5. So we're going to use substitution. We're going to take this 5 and put it in place. Absolute value plus 5. We do this inside the absolute value, which is a grouping symbol. So we do inside the absolute value first. 5 minus 7 is -2. We need to do this grouping symbol. The absolute value of -2 is a +2. So we have 2 plus 5 is 7. So again here, when we're evaluating absolute value symbols, we need to make sure we substitute in the value. Absolute value is a type of grouping symbol. We substitute and we solve. So what I would like you to do now is I'd like you to pause this video. And then what I would like you to do is solve these on your own. And then you're going to unpause the video to see if you did them correctly. So you should be pausing the video now. So if you take a look, the one on the left, you should have gotten a value of 2. And the one on the right, you should have gotten a value of 12. And you can take a look here, see what I did, if you got something different, and look to see what you did here. And if you do have a question, you can ask the sub or an adult in the classroom about that. So that was evaluating absolute value. We can also solve absolute value equations. Absolute value equations, there's always 2 cases. The first case is when the expression is positive or 0. And the second case is when it's negative. I know you may say, yeah, but Mr. Harris, isn't absolute value always positive? So how can we have a negative? Well, if we take a look here, if I am solving the absolute value of D is 10, what value can I put in place of D to get the value of 10? I put -10 and I can put positive 10. Why? I take the absolute value of -10, I'm going to get 10. If I take the absolute value of a positive 10, I'm still going to get 10. So this is why when we solve absolute value equations, we need to set it equal to the positive and negative value. Because on the inside, it can be positive or it can be negative. And that's what we're doing. You will hear me reference the inside as the guts, because we take the guts out, we set it equal to it. All right. So let's take a look here what I mean. If I have the absolute value of y minus 3 equals 6, I'm going to take the guts right here, this y minus 3, and I'm going to take it out of the absolute value. I'm then going to set it equal to a positive 6. And then I'm also going to set the guts equal to a negative 6. These are my two cases. I only change the outside, I only change the constant by itself. I do not change the symbol or anything inside of the absolute value. You do not change the guts. Now I have a simple equation. I add 3, y equals 9. I add 3, y equals negative 3. So we have two answers. When you have an absolute value equation, you should always have two solutions. If I substitute these in, so let's take a look here. If I put 9 in place of here, it's an absolute value of 9 minus 3. Well, 9 minus 3 is 6. The absolute value of 6 is 6. That's what that says. Let's plug in negative 3. Absolute value, negative 3 minus 3. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. The absolute value of negative 6 is 6. So that's how it works. You don't have to check your solution. You do not have to do this part here. But you do need to set up your two cases. So you have one case where you take the guts, you set it equal to the positive value. Then you take the guts and you set it equal to the negative value. All right, I want to do one more together here. And I'm going to click extend page. So let's do one more together. If I write down this equation, the absolute value, 2x minus 3, absolute value equals, let's go with 7. Okay. I'm going to take my guts, the 2x minus 3. And I'm going to set it equal to a positive 7. And then I'm going to take my guts, 2x minus 3, and I'm going to set it equal to a negative 7. And then I solve. At 3, 2x equals 10. Divide by 2, x equals 5. This one over here, we're going to add 3. We get 2x equals negative 4. We're going to divide by 2. We get x equals negative 2. So as you can see, we have two solutions. We have a 5 and a negative 2. So with absolute value equations, you will always have two solutions. All right, so what I want you to do right now is don't worry about Venn graph, just solving. I want you to solve both of these equations on your own. So you should be pausing your video now to solve the equation. So please pause your video now. All right, so on the left side, you should have gotten x equals 4 and x equals negative 3. And on the right side, you should have gotten y equals negative 2 and y equals negative 6. Again, look through these. If you got different answers, look to see maybe what type of mistake you made. If you can't figure it out, ask a teacher or an adult in the classroom to kind of help you figure out what you did wrong. All right, next one. The absolute value of p plus 6 equals negative 5. Well, if we start looking here and we're like, hey, let me just do my normal rules. So let's just take the original one. Let's take p plus 6. Subtract 6, p equals negative 11. And now let's substitute that back in. So if I do the absolute value of the negative 11 plus 6. Okay, the absolute value of negative 11 plus 6 is going to give us a negative 5. If I take the absolute value of negative 5, what do I get? Well, I get a positive 5. Well, it says it needs to be negative 5. But it's going to get a positive 5. But what if I set it equal to the positive value? So let's go p plus 6 equals 5. Subtract 6. Subtract 6. P equals negative 1. Now let's take negative 1 and substitute it in. Negative 1 plus 6. Negative 1 plus 6 is going to be 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. But wait, it needs to be negative 5. So these are one of the coolest ones here. All right. These are always fun math. When your absolute value from the get-go is equal to a negative, your answer is no solution. Because an absolute value cannot be negative. So again, when your original absolute value is equal to a negative, it is no solution. So these ones are really nice. So as soon as you see absolute value equals negative 5, boom, no solution. If I saw something like this, absolute value of 2x plus 3 equals negative 7. Well, boom, we have absolute value. We're equal to negative 7. No solution. Easy. Boom. Right there. Okay, no solution because it's equal to a negative. And that is it right there. Okay. Hopefully you did good on this. Make sure again you get your notes copied down so you can work on your practice.